Kevin and Tony in particular touched upon something out of the gate in regards to the scheduling approach, because I think the assumption out of the gate was, well, they've already played 9 games on the schedule. It's all set. And they're going to add possibly a 10th game to play a 10-game season. They're just going to pick and choose and say, okay, let's add Illinois to Ohio State's schedule, et cetera, and go on down the line. And let's see what the strategy is going to be. Is they're going to make that more of a proximity game geographically for safety conditions, or maybe the Big Ten's going to try to puff up its better teams or whatever. But you guys are talking about just almost tearing apart the schedule and reworking the whole thing.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, you can't just sit there and port the 9 games and spread them out and just throw another game in there. There's going to have to be, do we see a front loading of divisional games if we have divisions, which, I still think potentially they do, but, we don't know. It's all speculation now. Do you front load that in case you only get to 6, in case, whatever happens at that point? Could you see Ohio State and Michigan in September? I mean, there are a lot of crazy things that could happen in terms of bucking tradition. But in order, would you be willing to see the game in September to ensure having an edition of the game this year? Or do you roll the dice and try and take it as close as you can to November? Because one thing I'm pretty sure about is we're not going to have games on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, because if we remain with the protocols that are in place for all these schools to go to distance learning after Thanksgiving break, I don't know why or how you play games on campuses on that Saturday at that point. So I would assume that they would probably try to end the regular season that the previous Saturday. I mean, just, even if it's just an optics thing.
I'll throw in, I see a comment, not even 1% of the population has coronavirus. Here's the thing. It's so bad at Ohio State, they're not working out anymore. It's so bad at Clemson that 37 people have tested positive. You can't put a football team on the field with 37 people not there. So you got to get out of this mindset that, it's not a serious thing. It's not a real thing. Bull. It is a real thing. As much as we hate to say it, it's a real thing. And you can't put a football team on the field when 15 of them or 20 of them aren't there.
Take 105 football players and then all the personnel, the coaches, everybody else, the medical staff involved. You're talking 200 people. If you're just going to go with averages, 2 of them are going to have coronavirus. And then you're going to have, we always think, okay, they're 18 to 22-year-olds. They're healthy. They're good. Well, first of all, yes, that's generally the conclusion, but I don't think anyone wants to put guidelines in place saying 98% of them are going to be fine. Then on top of that, they have to deal with coaches and other staff and personnel that are 55, 65, 70 years old.
Yeah.
Serious issue.
In Clemson, by having 37 test positive, I am not saying that all 37 still have it. That could be a cumulative number over a number of weeks. But when Ohio State comes out and says it's so bad right now that we have to pause what we're doing to prevent any further spread, that's serious. That's serious. That means you can't put a team on. If they're not practicing, you can't play a game. So it's a serious matter.
And it's one thing when the IP
comes out. Is Series 4 or is Series 12? I mean, Ohio State has been ahead of the curve on a lot of this stuff. And serious to Ohio State may be meh to some other school. And I'm not going to attach another school to it because that's not fair. But, I think that Ohio State has just been so far ahead of things. The university is not putting numbers out. They somehow think we're going to super sleuth them into the point of figuring out, 7, and that's an odd number. So that means, oh my God, Justin Fields. We're not good. We're not that good. Well, I'm not that good. But the point being is, I've been told it's not Clemson levels or LSU levels or UNC levels or anything there. I don't know. I have tried so hard on my appearances on here not to get, too far down the rabbit hole on my thoughts on the severity of COVID and everything else. But, I think the pause is a good chance to go in, clean the building again, reassess your policies, recenter everything, and move forward. It's better now than in 3 weeks.
Gene Smith was asked, so what's the number of players? Like, what is the threshold of positive tests before things get shut down or before you decide to push a game off? And said they will have to come up with that number, and that will be a medical decision. And that's also another reason why you want to stay enclosed in the Big Ten, because your number, you may like your number, you may not like the max number. And the max number may be as long as fewer than 20 players, then we'll still come to town. Whereas Ohio State's like, whoa, we don't need you in Columbus right now, buddy. So they'll figure out what that number is and then move from there. And the fact that they are trying to come up with the number continues to reiterate that they are going to try to play this season. And that's the one thing that we have to keep in mind, that they are trying to make this happen. I saw somebody ask, when will we know the schedule? Gene Smith said, hopefully it has to be next week, because workouts are slated to start for everybody next week. The mandatory workouts start on Monday. And if you're going to say maybe start the September 12th, because they're also talking about maybe you push the start of the season out a little bit, in which case the workouts would be pushed out a little bit. So they need to get this figured out quickly. I don't know if they work on the weekends. They're not sports writers, but they need to figure out the schedule as soon as possible. That way teams know when they can start working out and proceed from there.
Yeah, I think people need to understand that we're humans, we're emotional, and for those people that are not necessarily logical and look and see what the situation is, when it doesn't affect you or anybody you know, then it's just something that's in the news. As soon as it touches somebody that you know or you personally, then it becomes the most important and severe thing in the world, of course. But let's take into account how many, when we talk 1% of the population, that's a lot of people. It seems minuscule, but it's a lot of people. Do you know 100 people? Anybody watching, do you know 100 people? Do you know 500 people? I think we all know more than that. And so we're talking about most likely it affecting handfuls of people that we know or their loved ones, certainly.